The pregnancy test shook in Natalie Foster's hand as the second pink line appeared. And she knew her entire world had just changed because of one impossible, perfect night with a stranger whose last name she did not even know. 3 months earlier, Natalie had walked into the Riverside Gala wearing a borrowed dress and shoes that pinched her toes, accompanying her best friend Maya, who worked as an event coordinator. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and expensive perfume, filled with people who existed in a world Natalie only glimpsed from the outside. She taught second grade at an underfunded public school, and her usual Friday nights involved sweatpants and reality television, not champagne and orchestra music. "Just stay near the back and enjoy the free food," Maya had whispered before rushing off to handle some crisis with the ice sculpture. Natalie had nodded, planning to do exactly that, when she collided directly into a solid chest and felt cold liquid splash across the front of her dress. "God, I am so sorry," a deep voice said, and she looked up into the most striking gray eyes she had ever seen. The man stood well over 6 feet, with dark hair slightly disheveled and a jaw that looked carved from stone. He wore a tuxedo like he was born in it, but his tie hung loose around his neck and his expression seemed genuinely distressed. "I was not paying attention. Are you all right?" "I'm fine," Natalie said, looking down at the champagne staining the blue fabric. "It's just a dress. Just a dress." He grabbed napkins from a nearby table, awkwardly trying to help. "Let me pay for the cleaning or a replacement or both. Really, it's borrowed anyway." She took the napkins from him, dabbing at the stain. "I'm more concerned that you lost your drink." He blinked at her, then laughed. The sound was warm and unexpected, transforming his whole face. "You know what? I was looking for an excuse to leave this thing anyway." The speeches alone could cure insomnia. "Then why are you here?" Natalie asked before she could stop herself. "Family obligation," he said, grimacing. "My mother sits on the board of about 17 charities and insists I make appearances. I'm Sebastian, by the way, Sebastian Vance." "Natalie Foster." She shook his offered hand, noticing how warm and strong it felt. "I'm here by best friend obligation, which might be equally binding." "Want to be obligated together?" Sebastian asked, and something in his smile made her heart skip. "There's a balcony through those doors that has significantly better air and 0 boring speeches." Every sensible part of Natalie knew she should decline. This man clearly came from money, probably had a girlfriend or 3, and would forget her name by morning. But something reckless stirred inside her, some desperate need to feel young and spontaneous instead of responsible and practical. "Lead the way," she heard herself say. The balcony overlooked the river, lights from the city reflecting off dark water. The September air felt crisp and clean after the stuffy ballroom, and Natalie breathed it in deeply. "Better?" Sebastian asked, leaning against the railing beside her. "Much better." She glanced at him sideways. "So what does Sebastian Vance do when he is not fulfilling family obligations?" "I run a manufacturing company," he said. "We make industrial equipment, boring stuff mostly, but it pays the bills." "Modestly speaking," Natalie said dryly, gesturing at his clearly expensive tuxedo. He grinned. "Fair point. What about you, Natalie Foster?" "I'm a teacher. Second grade." "Definitely does not pay the bills as well, but I get a lot of macaroni art, which is its own reward." "Second grade," Sebastian said thoughtfully. "That's the age where they still think teachers are magical, right? Before they turn into surly teenagers." "Exactly that age," Natalie agreed, surprised he understood. "They still get excited about learning things. Last week one of my students discovered that caterpillars turn into butterflies and acted like I had just revealed the secrets of the universe." "That sounds better than any boardroom meeting I have ever attended," Sebastian said, and she heard genuine warmth in his voice. They talked for an hour, then two. Sebastian asked about her students and seemed genuinely interested in her stories. She learned he had taken over his father's company 5 years ago and had been working non-stop ever since. He asked questions like he truly cared about the answers, and when he looked at her, he really looked like she was the only person in the world who mattered. "I should probably get back," Natalie said eventually, though she did not want to move. "Maya will wonder where I disappeared to." "Or," Sebastian said carefully, "we could leave together. There's a diner about 3 blocks from here that makes the best breakfast food at midnight. I could make up for ruining your dress with pancakes." Warning bells rang in Natalie's head. This was how stupid decisions got made. But she looked at Sebastian's hopeful expression, felt the flutter in her chest when he smiled, and thought about how she spent every day being responsible and careful. "Pancakes sound perfect," she said. The diner was nearly empty, all vinyl booths and fluorescent lights. Sebastian had loosened his tie further, and Natalie had given up on the stained dress, draping his tuxedo jacket over her shoulders instead. They ordered too much food and kept talking, conversation flowing like they had known each other for years instead of hours. "Can I confess something?" Sebastian asked, stealing a piece of her waffle. "I almost did not come tonight. I was going to claim I had the flu and stay home watching terrible action movies." "What changed your mind?" "My mother threatened to show up at my apartment with homemade soup and guilt," he said, grinning. "But now I am glad she did. Otherwise I would not have crashed into you." "Literally crashed," Natalie pointed out, but she was smiling too. When they finally left the diner, dawn was starting to lighten the sky. Sebastian walked her to the corner where she could catch a cab, and Natalie knew this was where the fairy tale ended. Men like Sebastian did not date elementary school teachers from small apartments in unfashionable neighborhoods. "I had a really good time tonight," she said, meaning it completely. "Me too." Sebastian hesitated, then said, "Can I see you again? Take you to dinner somewhere that does not serve syrup?" Hope and caution warred in Natalie's chest. "I don't know if that is a good idea." "Why not?" "Because we are from different worlds," she said honestly. "You wear tuxedos to charity galas and I grade spelling tests. This was a perfect night, but maybe we should leave it at that." Something flickered across Sebastian's face, disappointment mixed with understanding. "If that is what you want." "It's what makes sense," Natalie said, even though her heart protested. "Then can I have one thing before you disappear like Cinderella?" Sebastian asked softly. "What?" He cupped her face in his hands and kissed her. It was gentle at first, questioning, but when Natalie responded it deepened into something that made her forget her own name. She gripped his shirt, feeling his heart racing as fast as hers, and when they finally broke apart she was breathing hard. "Come home with me," Sebastian whispered against her lips. "Just for today. No strings, no expectations. I just do not want this night to end yet." Every rational thought in Natalie's head screamed that this was insane, but she looked into those gray eyes and felt more alive than she had in years. "Okay," she breathed. "Just for today." Sebastian's apartment was not an apartment. It was a penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, all modern furniture and expensive art. But Natalie barely noticed the decor because Sebastian was kissing her again, walking her backward toward the bedroom, and nothing else mattered except the feeling of his hands on her skin. They made love as morning light spilled through the windows, slow and intense and breathtaking. Sebastian touched her like she was precious, something to be cherished, and Natalie let herself feel beautiful and wanted in a way she had never experienced. When it was over they lay tangled together, Sebastian's fingers tracing patterns on her shoulder. "Stay for breakfast," he murmured. I make terrible coffee but excellent toast. Natalie laughed, feeling wonderfully reckless. That sounds perfect. They spent the day together, talking and laughing and making love again. Sebastian ordered takeout and they ate it sitting on his couch, Natalie wearing one of his shirts. They watched a terrible action movie and argued playfully about the plot holes. It felt easy and right, and Natalie kept forgetting this was not real life. When evening came, reality crept back in. Natalie needed to get home, prepare lessons for Monday, return to her actual world. "Let me see you again," Sebastian said as she dressed. "Please, this was not just a one-time thing for me." Natalie wanted to say yes so badly it hurt, but she looked around the penthouse, thought about the differences between them, and shook her head. "This was perfect, Sebastian." But perfect moments do not always translate to real life. "We could try," he insisted. "And when it does not work out, when you realize I do not fit into your world, it will hurt so much worse," Natalie said quietly. "Let's just keep this as a beautiful memory." Sebastian looked like he wanted to argue more, but finally nodded. "Can I at least call you a car?" "I can manage a cab," Natalie said, but she kissed him one more time, trying to memorize how it felt. She left without giving him her number, walked away from the most incredible 24 hours of her life, and told herself she had made the right choice. It was better to have one perfect day than to watch something beautiful fall apart. That had been 3 months ago. Natalie had thrown herself back into teaching, determinedly not thinking about gray eyes and warm laughter. Maya had asked about her mysterious disappearance from the gala, and Natalie had given vague answers about meeting someone. The borrowed dress had been professionally cleaned with the cash Maya found tucked into the pocket of the returned tuxedo jacket, far more than any cleaning could cost. Now Natalie sat on her bathroom floor, staring at the positive pregnancy test, and felt her carefully constructed denial shatter. She had been tired lately, her period late, but she had blamed stress and the flu that had been circulating through her classroom. She had not wanted to consider the other possibility, but here it was, undeniable. She was pregnant with Sebastian Vance's baby, and she had no idea how to find him. Natalie called in sick to work the next day, something she almost never did, and spent hours searching online. Sebastian Vance was not hard to find. Vance Industrial was a massive company, and Sebastian's photo appeared in business articles and society pages. He looked just as handsome in the professional headshots, but more distant, like the warm man she had spent a day with was hiding behind a corporate facade. She found the main number for Vance Industrial and stared at her phone for a long time before dialing. "Vance Industrial, how may I direct your call?" a professional voice answered. "I need to speak with Sebastian Vance," Natalie said, her voice shaking slightly. "Mr. Vance is not taking calls at the moment. May I ask what this is regarding?" Natalie's mind went blank. She could not exactly explain the situation to a receptionist. "It is personal. Can you give him a message? Tell him Natalie Foster needs to speak with him. It is urgent." "I can pass along the message, but I cannot guarantee when Mr. Vance will respond. He is very busy." "Please just tell him," Natalie said. "He will remember me." 3 days passed with no response. Natalie left 2 more messages, increasingly desperate. She taught her classes on autopilot, smiled at her students, and felt panic building in her chest. What if Sebastian did not want to know? What if he thought she was trying to trap him? What if one perfect day had meant nothing to him? On the 4th day, Maya showed up at Natalie's apartment after school with takeout and a determined expression. "All right, spill," Maya said, setting containers on the coffee table. "You have been weird for days and you look like you have not slept. What is going on?" Natalie burst into tears. The whole story came pouring out between sobs, the gala, Sebastian, their incredible day together, and now the pregnancy. Maya listened without interrupting, then pulled Natalie into a fierce hug. "Okay," Maya said practically. "Okay, we can handle this. First question, what do you want to do about the pregnancy? I am keeping it," Natalie said without hesitation. She had been terrified and overwhelmed, but that part she knew with certainty. "I want this baby." "Good. Second question, do you want to tell Sebastian?" "I have been trying," Natalie said miserably. "He is not returning my calls." Maya's eyes narrowed. "Then we make him return your calls." "I still have contacts at the company that organized the gala. Give me a day." True to her word, Maya called the next evening with triumph in her voice. "I got his personal assistant's direct line. Her name is Patricia, and she apparently actually likes me." "I may have implied you were more than a random hookup." Natalie's hands shook as she dialed the number. A woman answered on the second ring. Patricia Chen speaking. "Hi, my name is Natalie Foster. I really need to speak with Sebastian Vance. It is extremely important." There was a pause. "You have left several messages." "I know, and I am sorry to be persistent, but this cannot wait. Please, just 5 minutes of his time." Another pause, longer this time. Then Patricia said, "He is in meetings until 6. Can you be at the Vance Industrial Building at 6:15? Relief flooded through Natalie so intensely she felt dizzy. Yes, I will be there. Thank you." The Vance Industrial Building was downtown, all glass and steel, rising 40 stories. Natalie felt drastically out of place in her teacher clothes, carrying her worn bag, but she pushed through the revolving doors and approached the security desk. "I have an appointment with Sebastian Vance," she said, trying to sound confident. The security guard checked his computer, then nodded and handed her a visitor badge. 40th floor. Elevators are to your right." The elevator ride felt endless. Natalie's reflection stared back at her from the polished walls, pale, anxious, completely out of her depth. What was she going to say? How did you tell someone they were going to be a father after 3 months of silence? The 40th floor reception area was intimidatingly elegant. A woman who must be Patricia looked up from her desk and smiled warmly. "Natalie Foster." "That is me," Natalie said. "Mr. Vance is just finishing a call. He will be with you in a moment." Patricia gestured to a waiting area with leather chairs. "Can I get you anything?" "Water, coffee." "Water would be great," Natalie said, her mouth dry. She was halfway through the glass when a door opened and Sebastian walked out. He looked exactly as she remembered, tall, commanding, devastatingly handsome in a dark suit, but his expression was closed-off professional. "Natalie," he said, and she could not read his tone. "Come in." His office was enormous, with a view that stretched across the entire city. Natalie barely noticed. She was too focused on Sebastian, who had closed the door and was watching her with an expression she could not quite decipher. "I got your messages," he said. "I apologize for not returning them sooner. It has been a difficult few months." "I understand you are busy," Natalie said, her prepared speech evaporating. "I would not be here if it was not important. I figured." Sebastian leaned against his desk, arms crossed. He looked guarded in a way he had not been that night. "What is going on?" There was no easy way to say it, so Natalie just spoke the words. "I am pregnant. The baby is yours." Sebastian's face went completely blank. The silence stretched so long that Natalie felt panic rising in her throat. Then he said very carefully, "You are sure?" "I am sure it is yours, yes. You are the only person I have been with in over a year, and I am about 12 weeks along, which matches perfectly." Natalie twisted her hands together. "I know this is not what you expected. I did not expect it either. But I thought you had the right to know." 12 weeks, Sebastian repeated. His expression had not changed. You have known for how long? About a week, Natalie admitted. I know I should have realized sooner, but I was not expecting it and I have been stressed, and the symptoms were not obvious at first. Sebastian pushed off from the desk and walked to the windows, staring out at the city. His shoulders were rigid with tension. Natalie watched him, trying not to cry. I am not asking for anything, she said quickly. I just thought you should know. I plan to keep the baby and I can handle it financially. I am not trying to trap you or demand money or anything like that. I just felt like you deserved to know you were going to be a father. Not asking for anything, Sebastian said, turning back to face her. You are pregnant with my child and you are not asking for anything. I know our situation was complicated, Natalie said. One night or one day, I guess. We barely know each other. I am not trying to make this your problem. Something flashed across Sebastian's face, anger, maybe, or hurt. My child is not a problem, Natalie. I did not mean it like that, Natalie said, flustered. I just meant that I know this is not what you wanted. You have no idea what I want, Sebastian said quietly. You left without giving me your number. I spent weeks trying to find you, and believe me, I tried. Natalie Foster is apparently a very common name, and I had nothing else to go on. No phone number, no address, not even which school you teach at. Natalie stared at him. You tried to find me. Of course I did, Sebastian said, and now she could hear the frustration in his voice. That day meant something to me. I told you I wanted to see you again and you disappeared. I thought maybe you regretted it or decided I was not worth the trouble. I thought you would be relieved I left, Natalie said weakly. We are from such different worlds. That is an excuse, not a reason. Sebastian ran a hand through his hair, disrupting its perfect style. But that does not matter now. What matters is that you are pregnant and this baby is mine too, so we need to figure this out together. Together, Natalie echoed. Yes, together. I am not going to just hand you some money and walk away, Natalie. This is my child, my responsibility, my family. Sebastian's voice softened. Unless you do not want me involved. I do not know what I want, Natalie admitted. This is all happening so fast. A week ago I did not even know I was pregnant, and now I am standing in your office talking about shared responsibility. Sebastian studied her for a long moment, then said, Have you eaten dinner? The change of subject threw her. What, dinner? Have you eaten? When she shook her head, he grabbed his jacket from the chair. Then let us get food and talk properly. There is a quiet restaurant a few blocks away. We can figure out the next steps. I do not think going out is necessary, Natalie started to say. Natalie. Sebastian's voice was firm but not unkind. You are pregnant, which means you need to eat regularly, and we have a lot to discuss. Let me at least buy you dinner. Part of her wanted to refuse, to maintain some independence. But she was hungry and exhausted, and the thought of having this conversation somewhere less formal than his intimidating office was appealing. Okay, she agreed. Dinner. The restaurant was small and elegant, with soft lighting and private booths. Sebastian clearly knew the owner, who greeted him warmly and showed them to a secluded table without asking. When they were alone with menus, Sebastian said, Order whatever you want. Their salmon is excellent if you are not avoiding fish. I am supposed to limit certain types, Natalie said, scanning the menu uncertainly. Then get something else. Sebastian flagged down their waiter. Which of your fish options are safe for pregnant women? The waiter listed several dishes, and Natalie felt something tight in her chest loosen slightly. Sebastian was taking this seriously. He was not dismissing her or the baby. They ordered, and then Sebastian said, Tell me what you need. Medical care, vitamins, appointments. Whatever it is, I want to help. I have an appointment with an obstetrician next week, Natalie said. My insurance covers prenatal care. Cancel it, Sebastian said immediately. I want you seeing the best doctors available. I will set up appointments with my family's physician and a top obstetrician. They have offices in the medical building 3 blocks from here. Sebastian, that is not necessary, Natalie protested. My doctor is perfectly competent. I am sure they are. But I want you to have the absolute best care available. Please, Natalie, let me do this. There was something in his expression that made her pause, not arrogance but genuine concern. Why does this matter so much to you? Sebastian was quiet for a moment, turning his water glass in circles on the table. Finally, he said, My mother had 3 miscarriages before she had me. Then she had complications during the pregnancy and almost died when I was born. The doctors told her it was a miracle that both of us survived. He met her eyes. So yes, I am probably going to be overprotective about prenatal care, but this baby is already a miracle to me and I want to make sure both of you stay healthy. Natalie's throat tightened. I did not know. How could you? We spent 1 day together. Sebastian's smile was crooked. But now you do know. And now you know why I am going to insist on the best medical care money can buy. Please do not fight me on this. Okay, Natalie said softly. I will see your doctors. The food arrived and they ate in more comfortable silence. Finally, Natalie said, What do you want from this situation, Sebastian? Really? Honestly? Sebastian set down his fork. I want to be part of my child's life. I want to be at the appointments and see the ultrasounds and know that you are both healthy. I want to be there when the baby is born and afterward. I want to be a real father, not just a name on a birth certificate who sends support checks. That is a big commitment, Natalie said carefully. I know. But this is my child, Natalie. Maybe the only child I will ever have. My mother has been dropping hints about grandchildren for 5 years, and I had honestly started to think it might not happen. Work consumed everything, and I was not meeting anyone who made me want to slow down. He paused. Then I met you, and for the first time in years I felt like I could breathe. And now we are having a baby, and I know the timing is insane and the situation is complicated, but I cannot walk away from this. Natalie's eyes burned with unshed tears. I am scared. Me too, Sebastian admitted. I have no idea how to be a father. My own dad was so busy building the company that I barely saw him growing up. I do not want to make the same mistakes, but I want to try. Will you let me try? Yes, Natalie said and felt something shift inside her. Yes, we can try to figure this out together. Sebastian's smile transformed his whole face. He reached across the table and took her hand, and Natalie felt warmth spread through her at the contact. This was not how she had imagined starting a family, but maybe it could still work. They talked logistics for the rest of dinner. Sebastian insisted on contributing financially, and Natalie reluctantly agreed to let him cover medical expenses. They exchanged phone numbers, and Sebastian immediately texted her, so she would have his contact information saved. I will have Patricia set up the medical appointments, Sebastian said as they left the restaurant, and I want you to call me if you need anything. I mean that, Natalie. Day or night, anything at all. That seems excessive, Natalie said, but she was smiling. Welcome to the world of overprotective expectant fathers. Sebastian hailed a car. Let me take you home. During the drive to her neighborhood, Natalie felt hyper-aware of Sebastian beside her. The last time they had been this close had been in his bed, tangled together, and the memory made her cheeks heat. She caught him glancing at her and wondered if he was thinking the same thing. This is it, she said when they pulled up to her building. It was nothing like Sebastian's penthouse, just a modest apartment complex in a working-class area. She waited for him to react to the difference between their worlds, but he just nodded. Can I walk you up? That is not necessary. Natalie, Sebastian's voice was gentle. I want to see where you live, where our baby will be. Please, she relented, leading him up 3 flights of stairs to her small 1-bedroom apartment. It was clean but cramped, filled with bookshelves and student artwork. Sebastian looked around with obvious interest. It is cozy, he said, sounding genuine. Very you. It is a 1-bedroom, Natalie pointed out, which is going to be a problem when the baby comes. Then we will figure something out, Sebastian said. Either help you find a bigger place or adjust your space, whatever you need. You cannot just throw money at every problem, Natalie said, feeling overwhelmed again. I am not trying to throw money around. I am trying to help. Sebastian faced her, expression serious. I know this is a lot to adjust to, but we are in this together now, whether we planned it or not. Let me help, Natalie. Please. Looking into his gray eyes, Natalie felt the same pull she had experienced that night at the gala. Sebastian made her want to take risks, to believe in impossible things, and maybe that was not entirely bad. Okay, she said. We will figure it out together. Sebastian's smile made her heart skip. He stepped closer, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. Can I confess something? What? I am terrified right now, but I am also happier than I have been in months. That probably makes me crazy. We might both be crazy, Natalie said, but she was smiling too. Sebastian left after making her promise to call him the next day. Natalie locked the door behind him and leaned against it, one hand pressed to her still flat stomach. Her life had just gotten infinitely more complicated, but for the first time since seeing that positive test, she felt like maybe everything would be okay. The next few weeks passed in a blur. Sebastian was true to his word about the medical care. The obstetrician he set her up with was kind and thorough, with a state-of-the-art office and immediate availability. Natalie had her first ultrasound with Sebastian beside her, both of them staring in awe at the tiny form on the screen. That is our baby, Sebastian said, his voice thick with emotion. That is really our baby. The technician printed out several copies of the ultrasound image, and Sebastian immediately made one his phone background. He texted photos to his mother, who apparently called him 3 times in a row demanding details. She wants to meet you, Sebastian said as they left the appointment. She is very excited about becoming a grandmother. Already, Natalie felt panic flutter in her chest. Is not that moving kind of fast? You are having my child. I think my mother is entitled to be excited. Sebastian paused. But we can wait if you are not ready. I just want to warn you that she is persistent when she wants something. They compromised on lunch the following weekend. Natalie stressed over what to wear for 3 days, finally settling on a simple blue dress that Maya swore looked appropriate. Sebastian picked her up Saturday afternoon, looking unfairly handsome in casual slacks and a sweater. You look beautiful, he said when she answered the door. But you look nervous. My mother is not that scary, I promise. Easy for you to say, Natalie muttered. Millionaire Vance turned out to be warm and elegant, with Sebastian's gray eyes and a welcoming smile. She hugged Natalie immediately upon meeting her, which helped ease some of the tension. I am so happy to meet you, Millionaire said. Sebastian has told me so much about you, and about the baby, of course. I can barely contain my excitement. They had lunch at an upscale restaurant that made Natalie feel underdressed despite Maya's reassurances. But Millionaire focused entirely on getting to know her, asking about her teaching and family and interests. She seemed genuinely interested in the answers, not just making polite conversation. I think it is wonderful that you teach, Millionaire said. Children need good teachers. Sebastian had a marvelous 2nd-grade teacher who inspired his love of reading. He still talks about her sometimes. Mom, Sebastian protested, but he was smiling. It is true. You read everything you could get your hands on for years. Alina turned back to Natalie. And how are you feeling? Pregnancy can be so difficult in the first trimester. Mostly just tired, Natalie admitted, and some nausea, but nothing too terrible. I was sick constantly when I was pregnant with Sebastian, Alina said. Could not keep anything down for months. They had to hospitalize me twice. She reached over and squeezed Natalie's hand. But every moment of difficulty was worth it when I finally held my baby. You will see. The easy acceptance made Natalie's eyes burn. Her own mother had passed away 2 years ago, and her father lived across the country with his new wife. She had not told him about the pregnancy yet, dreading his disappointment, but Alina was already treating her like family. Thank you, Natalie said softly. That means a lot. After lunch, Alina hugged her again. Please do not be a stranger, dear. I want to be as involved as you are comfortable with. For the baby's sake, of course, but also because I can already tell you are special to my son. In the car afterward, Natalie said, Your mother is lovely. She really is, Sebastian agreed. She also clearly adores you already, which I could have predicted. You are very easy to adore, Natalie Foster. Something in his tone made her look at him sharply, but Sebastian was focused on driving. The comment hung between them, weighted with unspoken meaning. As the weeks passed, Sebastian became increasingly present in Natalie's life. He showed up at her apartment with healthy groceries and prenatal vitamins, insisting she needed better nutrition. He accompanied her to every doctor's appointment, asking detailed questions and taking notes. When Natalie mentioned being tired, he hired a cleaning service to help with her apartment. You need to rest, he said when she protested. Growing a human is exhausting work. I am not helpless, Natalie argued, but part of her appreciated the care. I know you are not helpless. But you also grade papers until midnight and spend your weekends cutting out decorations for your classroom. Let someone else handle the vacuuming. They fell into an easy routine. Sebastian would come over several evenings a week with dinner, and they would eat together while talking about their days. He was genuinely interested in her classroom stories, laughing at her descriptions of 7-year-old drama and offering suggestions for the school fundraiser she was planning. What if Vance Industrial sponsored it? Sebastian suggested one evening. We could match whatever funds you raise, maybe donate some equipment for the playground. That is incredibly generous, Natalie said, surprised. It is for a good cause. And it makes me happy knowing I am helping your students. Sebastian's expression turned thoughtful. You really love teaching, do not you? I do. It is not glamorous and it definitely does not pay well, but making a difference in kids' lives matters. Natalie paused. Does that sound naive? It sounds admirable, Sebastian said quietly. I spend my days negotiating contracts and attending board meetings. You are shaping the next generation. I think you got the better deal. Even with the bodily fluids and constant chaos. Even with that. Sebastian leaned back on her couch, looking more relaxed than she usually saw him. He had loosened his tie and rolled up his sleeves, and Natalie tried not to notice how attractive he looked. I meant what I said that night at the gala, you know. Hearing about your work was more interesting than any business meeting. You were probably just trying to charm me, Natalie teased, but her heart beat faster. Maybe a little, Sebastian admitted with a grin, but I also meant it. You are remarkable, Natalie. The air between them shifted, becoming charged. Natalie was suddenly aware of how close Sebastian was sitting, how his eyes had darkened as they focused on her. She should pull back, maintain boundaries. This was already complicated enough without adding romance into the mix. But then Sebastian was leaning in, giving her plenty of time to retreat, and Natalie did not move. His lips met hers gently, questioning, and she sighed into the kiss. It felt as perfect as it had that first time, her whole body responding to his touch. Sebastian pulled back slightly, resting his forehead against hers. "I have been wanting to do that for weeks." "We probably should not," Natalie whispered, even as her hands gripped his shirt. "Probably not," Sebastian agreed, "but I am not sure I care anymore." He kissed her again, deeper this time, and Natalie stopped thinking about all the reasons this was a bad idea. She had spent months trying to be practical and sensible, protecting her heart. But Sebastian made her feel alive and wanted and beautiful, and maybe that was worth the risk. They ended up in her bed, making love with the same intensity as that first time. Sebastian was careful with her, mindful of the pregnancy, but there was nothing gentle about the way he made her feel. Afterward they lay tangled together, Sebastian's hand resting protectively over her small baby bump. "This changes things," Natalie said quietly. "I hope so," Sebastian replied. "Because I have been falling for you since the moment you collided into me at that gala, and I am tired of pretending I do not care." Natalie's breath caught. "Sebastian, you do not have to say it back," he said quickly. "I know this is complicated and you need time. But I wanted you to know how I feel. This is not just about the baby for me anymore, Natalie. It is about you." "I am scared," she admitted. "What if this does not work? What if we try and fail and everything gets messy?" "Then at least we tried," Sebastian said, "but I do not think we will fail. We are already good together and we have not even really been trying." He had a point. Despite the unusual circumstances, things between them felt natural, easy, like they fit together in a way Natalie had not expected. "Okay," she said finally, "let us try, really try. As more than just two people having a baby together." Sebastian's smile was brilliant. He kissed her again, soft and sweet, and Natalie let herself hope that maybe this crazy situation could become something wonderful. The next few months were the happiest of Natalie's life. As her pregnancy progressed, Sebastian became even more attentive. He researched everything about fetal development and pregnancy nutrition, showing up with foods rich in whatever vitamin the baby needed that week. When Natalie's feet started swelling, he would massage them while they watched movies. When she woke up with back pain, he would help her adjust her pillows and rub the ache away. They went public with their relationship at 5 months, when Natalie's growing belly made hiding it impossible. Maya was thrilled, having predicted this outcome from the beginning. Elena cried happy tears and immediately started planning baby showers. Natalie's father was confused by the timeline, but came around when he heard how devoted Sebastian was. "This is not how I would have chosen things to happen," her father admitted over the phone. "But he clearly adores you, and that is what matters." Sebastian took Natalie to prenatal classes, where he was the most engaged father in the room. He practiced breathing techniques with her, assembled baby furniture with intense focus, and debated paint colors for the nursery with the seriousness of a business negotiation. "What about this sage green?" he asked, holding up paint samples in what would become the baby's room. They had moved into Sebastian's penthouse at 6 months, Natalie finally agreeing that her one-bedroom apartment was not practical. Sebastian had converted a room into a nursery and another into an office space for Natalie's teaching materials. "I thought you liked the soft yellow," Natalie said from her position on the couch, one hand on her very round belly. "I do like the yellow, but the article I read said green is more calming for infants." Sebastian frowned at the samples. "Although this one might be too dark. What do you think?" "I think you are overthinking paint," Natalie said fondly. "Any of them will be fine." "This is our baby's first room," Sebastian protested. "It needs to be perfect." Natalie watched him debate colors with himself, and felt overwhelming love for this man who had crashed into her life so unexpectedly. He was nothing like she had imagined that first night, yet somehow exactly what she needed. At 7 months, they found out they were having a girl. Sebastian cried when the ultrasound technician told them, clutching Natalie's hand and staring at the screen in wonder. "A daughter," he kept saying. "We are having a daughter." "Are you disappointed it is not a boy?" Natalie asked, watching his reaction. "Disappointed." "Natalie, I am terrified and thrilled and so in love I can barely breathe." Sebastian kissed her forehead. "A little girl, our little girl." They spent hours debating names. Sebastian liked Elizabeth, traditional and strong. Natalie preferred Sophia, soft and beautiful. They finally settled on Sophie Elizabeth Vance, a compromise they both loved. "Sophie," Sebastian said, lying in bed with his hand on Natalie's stomach, feeling their daughter kick. "She is going to be so loved." "She already is," Natalie said softly. At 8 months, Sebastian proposed. Not at a fancy restaurant or a big production, but on a quiet Sunday morning in their kitchen. Natalie was making pancakes, and Sebastian came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her expanded waist and pressing a kiss to her neck. "Marry me," he said simply. Natalie froze, spatula in hand. "What?" "Marry me, Natalie Foster. Not because of Sophie, though I love that she will have both of us as her parents, but because I love you and I want to spend the rest of my life proving it." Sebastian turned her gently to face him. "I know we did everything backward and out of order. But I do not care about the timeline. I care about you and us and the family we are building. So please, will you marry me?" He produced a ring from his pocket, a beautiful vintage setting with a diamond that caught the morning light. Natalie looked at it, then at Sebastian's hopeful expression, then felt their daughter kick as if offering her opinion. "Yes," Natalie said, laughing and crying simultaneously. "Yes, I will marry you." Sebastian slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her thoroughly, only breaking apart when the smoke alarm started beeping from the forgotten pancakes. They laughed through the chaos of opening windows and dealing with burnt breakfast, and Natalie thought she had never been happier. They decided on a small ceremony at the courthouse before the baby arrived, with a bigger celebration planned for after Sophie was born. Eleanor was slightly disappointed about not getting to plan a large wedding, but she understood the practical considerations. "Besides," she said, helping Natalie pick out a simple white dress that accommodated her belly, "what matters is that you are getting married at all. I can plan the celebration later." At 8.5 months pregnant, Natalie Foster became Natalie Vance. Sebastian cried during the vows, holding both her hands while promising to love her forever. Maya served as maid of honor, and Eleanor and Patricia witnessed. Afterward, they went to the same diner where they had shared breakfast after the gala, coming full circle. "So, Mrs. Vance," Sebastian said, stealing a fry from her plate, "how does it feel to be married to a millionaire, about the same as being pregnant by one?" Natalie teased. "Overwhelming, but somehow right." "Just overwhelmingly right," Sebastian grinned. "I am going to have to up my husband game." "You are already doing pretty well," Natalie assured him, watching his expression soften with love. Sophie Elizabeth Vance arrived 2 weeks later, coming into the world at 3 in the morning after 12 hours of labor. Sebastian stayed by Natalie's side the entire time, letting her squeeze his hand until it bruised, breathing through contractions with her, and never once complaining. When the doctor finally placed their daughter in Natalie's arms, both parents burst into tears. Sophie was perfect, with dark hair and gray eyes just like her father, and lungs that worked impressively well as she announced her displeasure with her new environment. "She is here," Sebastian said, his voice breaking. "She is really here." "She is perfect," Natalie whispered, counting tiny fingers and toes. "Sebastian, look what we made." "I am looking." Sebastian carefully touched Sophie's tiny hand, which immediately wrapped around his finger. His expression was pure wonder. "Hi, Sophie. I am your dad, and I have been waiting so long to meet you." Elena arrived an hour later, bringing flowers and tears of joy. She held her granddaughter with practiced ease, cooing softly while Sophie stared up at her with unfocused eyes. "She looks just like Sebastian did as a baby," Elena said. "Same serious expression, like she is evaluating everything. You two did good work." Over the next few days in the hospital, Sebastian barely left Natalie's side. He changed every diaper, learned to swaddle, and paced the room at night when Sophie fussed, so Natalie could rest. The nurses all commented on what an involved father he was, and Natalie felt overwhelming gratitude for this man who had become her whole world. "What are you thinking?" Sebastian asked one evening, finding her awake and watching Sophie sleep in her bassinet. "That I cannot believe how lucky I am," Natalie admitted. "A year ago, if someone had told me I would be married to a millionaire with a beautiful baby, I would have laughed. But here we are." "Here we are," Sebastian agreed, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "And I am the lucky one, Natalie. You gave me everything I did not know I was missing." The first few weeks at home were an exhausting blur of feedings and diaper changes and very little sleep. But they navigated it together, Sebastian taking paternity leave to help. He would pace the penthouse at 2 in the morning with a screaming Sophie, singing off key lullabies until she settled. He brought Natalie water and snacks while she nursed, making sure she was eating enough. He did laundry and cleaned, and somehow managed to look at both his girls like they hung the moon. "You are a natural at this," Natalie said one morning, watching Sebastian expertly burp Sophie while simultaneously reading the news on his tablet. "I am faking it like everyone else," Sebastian assured her, "but I have been reading a lot of parenting books." "How many?" 15, maybe 20. At her astonished expression, he shrugged. "I wanted to be prepared. Our daughter deserves the best father I can be." Natalie fell in love with him all over again in that moment. This man who ran a massive company, who made million-dollar decisions daily, was researching the best techniques for helping a colicky baby because he wanted to be a good father. How had she gotten so lucky? When Sophie was 3 months old, Natalie returned to teaching part-time. It was harder than she expected to leave her daughter, but her students were thrilled to have her back. Sebastian adjusted his schedule to work from home 2 days a week, refusing to put Sophie in daycare full-time. "I want to be here for her firsts," he explained. "First smile, first laugh, first time she rolls over. I do not want to miss anything." And he did not. Sebastian was there when Sophie smiled for the first time at 8 weeks, her tiny face lighting up at her father's voice. He was there when she laughed at 3 months, a gurgling giggle that had them both making ridiculous faces to hear it again. He was there for her first tooth, first solid food, first everything. On Sophie's first birthday, they threw a party in the penthouse with family and friends. Sophie sat in her high chair wearing a tiny crown, smashing her first piece of cake with gleeful enthusiasm. Sebastian took approximately 1,000 photos, his face radiating pure joy. "Can you believe it has been a year?" Natalie asked, leaning against him while Sophie entertained her grandmother. "Best year of my life," Sebastian said without hesitation. "Even the sleepless parts, even the screaming parts, all of it. Me too." Natalie watched their daughter, who had frosting in her hair and was babbling happily. "She is perfect, Sebastian. She is, just like her mother." Sebastian kissed the top of Natalie's head. "Thank you for giving me this, for giving me both of you." "I think we gave each other this," Natalie corrected. "I never expected that night to lead here, but I would not change a single thing." "Not even the part where I spilled champagne all over you," Sebastian teased. especially not that part. Best accident of my life. 2 years became 3, then 4. Sebastian proposed a vow renewal ceremony now that they had time to plan properly, and Alina went into full party planning mode. They married again in a beautiful garden ceremony with Sophie as the world's most adorable flower girl, scattering petals with abandon and stealing the show. Natalie continued teaching, loving her job but also loving the balance she had found. Sebastian remained devoted to both his work and his family, somehow managing to excel at both. They talked about having another baby, agreeing to start trying when Sophie turned 5. But life had other plans. When Sophie was 4.5, Natalie found herself staring at another positive pregnancy test with déjà vu. "Sebastian," she called, and he appeared in the bathroom doorway immediately, concern on his face. "What is wrong? Are you okay?" Natalie held up the test, laughing at his shocked expression. "Surprise, we are having another baby." "Are you serious?" Sebastian took the test, staring at it like it might disappear. "We are really having another baby, we really are." Sebastian pulled her into his arms, spinning her around the bathroom while she laughed. "Another miracle. We are getting another miracle." This pregnancy was easier, maybe because they knew what to expect. Sebastian was just as attentive but less anxious, having survived the first time. Sophie was thrilled about becoming a big sister, constantly talking to Natalie's growing belly and bringing her toys to share with the baby. "Baby needs teddy bear," Sophie would announce seriously, placing her favorite stuffed animal on Natalie's stomach. "And blankie, baby cold." They found out they were having a boy this time. Sebastian cried again, holding Sophie on his lap while the ultrasound technician pointed out their son's features on the screen. "Baby brother," Sophie said confidently. "I teach him things." "You will be the best big sister," Sebastian assured her. "He is very lucky to have you." They named him Samuel Thomas Vance, and he arrived right on schedule at 40 weeks. Sophie met her brother in the hospital with wide eyes, carefully touching his tiny hand while Sebastian supervised. "He's so small," Sophie whispered. "You were this small once too," Natalie told her, "and now look how big you got." "I help," Sophie declared. "I best big sister." And she was. Sophie took her role seriously, helping fetch diapers and singing to Samuel when he cried. Sebastian somehow managed 2 children with the same devotion he had shown one, dividing his attention equally and making both kids feel loved. Natalie watched her family grow and felt overwhelming gratitude. Her life looked nothing like she had imagined it would that night at the gala, wearing a borrowed dress and trying not to feel out of place. But it was so much better than anything she could have planned. One evening, with Sophie asleep and Samuel nursing sleepily, Sebastian found Natalie on the couch and sat down beside her. "What are you thinking about?" he asked softly, mindful of their son. "That night," Natalie admitted, "when we met. How terrified I was that you were too good to be true, that the different worlds thing would matter. How wrong I was about all of it." "You are not completely wrong," Sebastian said. "We are from different worlds in a lot of ways, but I think that makes us stronger, not weaker. You keep me grounded and remind me what actually matters. I give you stability and support so you can keep changing lives. We balance each other. We really do." Natalie leaned against his shoulder. "I love you, Sebastian Vance. Thank you for spilling champagne on me that night." "Best accident I ever made," Sebastian agreed, echoing her words from years ago. "I love you too, both of you, all of you." He gently touched Samuel's head. "My whole world right here." "Our whole world," Natalie corrected. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching their son drift into sleep. Through the open door, they could hear Sophie's soft breathing from her room. Outside the windows, the city lights twinkled like stars, Natalie thought about how a single night had changed everything. How one chance encounter, one impulsive decision had led to this beautiful, chaotic, perfect life. She had been so scared of taking the risk, so convinced they were too different to work. But Sebastian had been right that first night when he said they should try. Because trying had given them Sophie and Samuel, had given them a love story that defied all her logical objections. Sometimes the best things in life were not the ones you planned for, but the ones that crashed into you unexpectedly, like a millionaire spilling champagne at a charity gala. Like one perfect night that led to a baby, to a love that transformed everything. Like a miracle she never saw coming but would treasure for the rest of her life. Samuel finished nursing and fell completely asleep, his tiny face peaceful and content. Sebastian carefully took him, rising to put him in the bassinet they kept in the living room for convenience. When he returned, he pulled Natalie close and kissed her softly. "Happy?" he asked. "So happy I could burst," Natalie confirmed. "You?" "Happier than I ever imagined possible," Sebastian said. "And it all started because I was not paying attention and crashed into the most beautiful woman at a charity gala. Best mistake of my entire life." "Second best," Natalie corrected with a smile. "The first best was me agreeing to go home with you that night." "Fair point," Sebastian grinned. "Although I would argue the actual best decision was you calling me about the pregnancy. If you had not, we might never have found each other again." "The universe had a plan," Natalie said. "Even when we were both too stubborn or scared to follow it." "Well, I am grateful the universe was more persistent than our doubts." Sebastian pulled her even closer. "I love our life, Natalie. I love our family. I love waking up next to you every morning and falling asleep beside you every night. I love watching you with our kids and seeing the amazing mother and teacher you are. I just love all of it." "Me too," Natalie whispered. "All of it. Even the hard parts and the scary parts and the parts where we have no idea what we are doing." "Especially those parts," Sebastian agreed. "Because we figure them out together." From the bassinet, Samuel made a small sound in his sleep. From her room, Sophie mumbled something unintelligible. The sounds of their family, the soundtrack of their life together. Natalie closed her eyes and breathed it all in, committing this moment to memory. One night had led to this baby, and this baby had led to miracles. Plural. Because it was not just Samuel who was the surprise, the gift she never expected. It was all of it Sophie and Sebastian, and the love that had grown between them. The family they had built from one impulsive decision and a whole lot of faith. She had thought Sebastian was too good to be true, but he had turned out to be exactly true. Real and present and devoted in ways she had not believed possible. He had given her security without taking her independence, support without smothering, love without conditions. And she had given him something he had not known he was missing: a family, a home, someone to slow down for. They were different, yes. She still taught second grade in the same school, still drove a modest car, still preferred cozy nights at home to fancy parties. Sebastian still ran Vance Industrial, still wore expensive suits, still moved in circles of wealth and influence. But those differences did not divide them anymore. They enriched their partnership, gave them new perspectives and balance. "What do you think they will be like?" Natalie asked suddenly. "Sophie and Samuel when they grow up." Sebastian considered the question seriously. "Sophie is going to be fierce and loving, probably change the world in some way. She already has your determination and kindness. Samuel." He glanced at the bassinet. "Too early to tell completely, but I hope he is happy. That is what I want most for both of them. Not success or money or status. Just genuine happiness." "Good answer," Natalie approved. "I want them to be kind, to treat people with respect regardless of background or wealth, to understand how lucky they are but not take it for granted. They will be, Sebastian said confidently, because they have you as their mother. You will make sure they grow up to be good humans, not just successful ones. We will make sure, Natalie corrected. You are just as important in shaping who they become. Sebastian kissed her forehead. Then they will definitely turn out amazing because they have both of us. Sophie appeared in the doorway then, rubbing her eyes and clutching her teddy bear. Mama, I thirsty. Come here, baby girl, Natalie said, and Sophie climbed onto the couch between them. Sebastian went to get her some water while Natalie cuddled their daughter close. You okay? Natalie asked softly. Had dream, Sophie mumbled. But now okay. You and Daddy and Samuel here. We are always here, Natalie promised. We are not going anywhere. Sebastian returned with the water and Sophie drank it slowly, nestled between her parents. When she finished, she said, Can I stay here? With you, of course, Sebastian said, adjusting so Sophie could curl up more comfortably. You can always stay with us. They sat together, the three of them, while Samuel slept nearby. This was not how Natalie had pictured her life going. She had imagined meeting someone gradually, dating for years, getting married and then carefully planning children. Instead, she had crashed into everything backward and out of order, and it had turned out more beautifully than any careful plan could have created. Sophie fell asleep quickly, her breathing evening out. Sebastian carefully lifted her and carried her back to bed, tucking her in with practiced ease. When he returned, he found Natalie checking on Samuel, adjusting his blanket even though it was perfectly fine. He is okay, Sebastian said gently. You can stop worrying. I am his mother. I will never stop worrying. But Natalie stepped back from the bassinet and let Sebastian guide her to their bedroom. They got ready for bed in comfortable synchronization, the routine of years together making everything easy. In bed, Sebastian pulled Natalie against his chest and she relaxed into his warmth. This was her favorite time of day, these quiet moments when it was just the two of them, connected in the darkness. Thank you, Sebastian said softly. For what? For taking a chance on me. For calling me about the pregnancy even when you were scared. For letting me be part of this. Sebastian's hand found hers under the covers, their fingers intertwining. You gave me everything, Natalie. A family, a purpose beyond work, a reason to slow down and appreciate life. I do not think you understand how much that means. You gave me just as much, Natalie said. Security and partnership and love I did not think really existed. You showed up for me in ways no one ever had before. You made me feel valued and supported and beautiful even when I was exhausted and covered in baby spit up. You are always beautiful, Sebastian said firmly, especially covered in baby spit up. Natalie laughed quietly. You are biased, completely biased, and I am fine with that. Sebastian kissed her shoulder. I am going to love you for the rest of my life, Natalie Vance. That is not bias, that is just fact. Good, Natalie whispered, because I am going to love you just as long. They fell asleep wrapped around each other and Natalie dreamed of the future. Sophie starting school and making friends. Samuel taking his first steps. Family vacations and holiday traditions. Growing old together while their children grew up. All the beautiful ordinary moments that made up a life. She had been so scared that one night would not be enough, that the magic would fade when reality set in. But she had been wrong. One night had been just the beginning. It had led to a baby, yes, but more than that, it had led to a family. To love that deepened with every day. To a partnership that weathered challenges and celebrated victories together. The surprise had not just been the miracle of Sophie, though she was certainly miraculous. The real surprise was discovering that love did not have to follow rules or timelines or logical progressions. Sometimes it crashed into you unexpectedly at a charity gala. Sometimes it grew from one perfect day into a lifetime of perfect moments. And sometimes a millionaire spilled champagne on your borrowed dress, and instead of being a disaster, it became the beginning of everything you never knew you needed. Natalie drifted into sleep with Sebastian's heartbeat steady under her ear, their children sleeping safely down the hall, and her heart so full of gratitude she could barely contain it. This was her miracle, not just the baby, but all of it. The whole beautiful, chaotic, unexpected story of how one night had changed everything, and she would not trade a single moment of it for anything in the world.